Welcome to Roundabout Creative Chaos, a podcast about people who make things and the stories behind why they do it. I'm your host, Tammy Coron, and this is episode 149, which was recorded on June 16th, 2026. Today, I'm joined by Ken and Roberta Williams, the husband and wife team behind Sierra Online. In the early days of personal computing, they helped turn video games into storytelling experiences, creating some of the most influential adventure games ever made, including Mystery House, the King's Quest series, and Phantasmagoria. On this episode, we talk about how Mystery House came together, where Roberta found inspiration for her games, what it was like building Sierra from the ground up, and why they're still creating together more than 40 years later. Are you ready to talk tech, music, arts, and zombies? I know we are, so grab your crossbow and let's get this episode started. Roberta, you're the reason I got into game dev. I mean, I like you too, Ken, but...
Well, I've actually heard that a lot. Yeah, I kind of say I feel like I'm a mother to a lot of kids out there, many of them who are not kids anymore. But I've heard that, and I appreciate that, and I feel very honored by that. And I really do. I find that designing games is one thing, but if it is doing good, it's even better.
I guess a couple years ago, maybe we had Al Lowe on the show, which I know you guys know very well.
It's very good. Him and Margaret are very good friends of ours.
Oh, great.
Yeah, very good.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you get into game design and development? I know you guys met when you were just high school sweethearts, and that just blows my mind right there. My husband and I are coming up on 29 years together, so it's not easy.
No, there's ups and downs with every marriage, everything. We actually didn't know each other in high school, but we both graduated the same year. We lived in neighboring towns. So he lived in Pomona, California, and he went to his high school there, and then I lived in Claremont, California, and I went to my high school there, but they're very close to each other. And we just met through a mutual friend, like within a couple of weeks of graduating in June, and then we double dated. The mutual friend was my boyfriend. So me and my boyfriend, we double dated with Ken and his girlfriend, and then I broke up with my boyfriend, and I went on. I was going to start college, and I just kind of went on, and then about 5 or 6 months after meeting him on that one double date at a drive-in movie theater, because we did that in those days, which was the early 70s. I suddenly got a call out of the blue, and it was a guy by the name of Ken Williams. He's asking me for a date, and I said, who? I didn't remember him. It was only the one night, and we were watching a movie, and I said, I don't. He says, well, we've met. And I said, well, I don't. When did we meet? What did we do? I didn't really remember. And he reminded me of that, and then I went, oh, okay, I think I know who you are. And I said, well, I have another boyfriend. So I don't know. He wants me to go out. I go, I don't know. I'm not really available. And my dad was sitting in the room reading his nightly newspaper in his big chair. It was right before dinner. And I suddenly heard him wrestling the newspaper, like this. And when I was saying no on dating him, And I remember looking back at him and going, what are you doing? And he's going, yes, yes, yes. I mean, he was literally doing this. Yes, yes. Because he hated the boyfriend that I had. And rightly so. Looking back, that he wasn't a good guy. And my dad was willing to take a chance on anybody else. We didn't know who he was. So I was like, well, okay. I mean, I guess I could go out with you. I mean, I'm looking back at my dad and okay, all right, all right. And I went out with him and that was it. The other boyfriend was gone within a couple of days and we've been together ever since.
I was going to say, imagine how different your lives would have turned out if you had just said no. If you didn't listen to your father. See, this is a good case for listening to your dad.
I did listen to my dad. I didn't listen to him very much, but this one time I did. And but yeah, if Ken and I had not met, you would not have played King's Quest or whatever it was you played, and you may not be doing what you're doing right now in a weird sort of way based upon what you said to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you said that you were in college. What were you going to college for at that time?
Oh, I was just, I don't even remember. Probably, it was just a junior college.
Okay.
I was not interested in college. I was a flaky, flighty, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life girl. Although I did. And I think one reason why I was really upset with my dad because he wanted me to go to college so bad and to a good university. And he was constantly writing and getting brochures of this college or university or that one. I got all A's in my senior year of high school and was on the principal's honor list, or honor roll, I guess. And so I had very high SAT scores, so I knew I wouldn't have any problems getting into a good university. But I just, I wanted to be an archaeologist is what I wanted. I either wanted to be an archaeologist or I wanted to write children's books or scripts for movies. It was one of the two, but both were kind of adventurous kind of careers. And my dad would say, no, I'm not paying for that, because it was just a middle class upbringing. And he said, I think you should be a dentist, he said to me, or an optometrist. I mean, and he was, and he meant it because he had written for these optometrists and dental schools. It was showing me, look, here we go, read this. And I go, I don't want to be a dentist. I don't want to be an optometrist. And he said, well, you could be a nutritionist. And I said, well, maybe that. But I said, no, I want to be an archaeologist. And he said, you're not going to make money doing that. Who makes money doing that? And I didn't care. And so I think I just decided I wasn't going to go to any fancy university because he wanted me to. And instead, I just started in a local junior college, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
And so, meeting Ken, really, I have to credit him for kind of steering me to be able to do more with my life, because he really wanted to start his own company. He kept telling me on our first dates that he said, I'm going to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30, and he's 18 years old at this point. And so he's making me start to look at life a little more seriously. And I have to give credit to Ken for that.
Yeah. So Ken, what made you pick up the phone and ask her out?
Oh, she's cute. But
well, he's 18, so
yeah.
What does he know at 18 years old? So
right. What were you doing? Were you in school at that time? Were you in college?
Yeah, I was in college. I got into college early, was majoring in physics, and kind of got my first taste of computers, which were big mainframe computers at that time, and programming with card decks.
Oh, yeah.
And wanted a career in computers, but yeah, I was in my first year at college when I was 16. Got out of high school early, got into college, met Roberta, and as things go, we kind of got married at like 4 days after I turned 18. And she got pregnant immediately.
He's a year younger than me.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we graduated from high school the same year, though.
Well, when suddenly we were going to have a family, I needed to get a job. And so her dad paid for me to go to a trade school, one of these 9-month trade schools to learn to program.
Called
Control Data Institute.
Okay.
And I learned to program and got a job as a computer operator. And in those days, computers were pretty new in LA. This was 1974, 75, something
no,
like
it
that.
would have been when you went to Control Data Institute.
No, when I got out of Control Data Institute.
It was about when DJ was born. So
that was in 79.
It would have been the end of 73.
73.
Beginning of, because he was born November 30th.
There weren't many programmers in all of LA County at the time. And I was able to get any job I wanted and change jobs as much as I wanted. So for kind of a 7-year period, I kind of worked for everybody in the LA area, day and night, and changed jobs quite a bit and kind of climbed the ladder and did really well. But LA was not a nice place at the time, and I kind of wanted out of LA, so I was always trying to think of some business to start. And I started when the Radio Shack TRS-80 came out.
And my first computer.
Yeah, I thought it was an amazing computer. It even had a cassette tape drive. So I started working on, and Microsoft at the time had released BASIC for the TRS-80. And I had done some programming in Fortran, and I said, well, the TRS-80 needs a Fortran compiler. And I started working on it, but Roberta, meanwhile, played a text game called Adventure on the computer I was working on. And
it was Children's Hospital of Los Angeles.
Yeah, it was.
As a contract program.
I had an acoustic coupler hooked into some mainframe computer and discovered the little text game on it and passed it over to Roberta. And she fell in love and talked me into programming something.
Well, I had to design a game first.
Yeah, she designed a game.
Programming something.
No, yeah, she designed a game called Mystery House, and said, "Could I program it?" And I said, "Sure." And mostly, I did it just to kind of, I don't know, be nice to my wife, kind of thing. I didn't really think there was a market for it. But I programmed it and took it into a computer store along with kind of an early demo of my Fortran compiler. And they were excited about the game and not the Fortran compiler, and that's how Sierra was born. So
let's go through that process, because it is a dual process. I mean, Roberta, like you just said, you've got to come up with that design first before you program.
Yeah, well, I should go back a little bit and let you know that I did have some amount of computer training.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, in between the times of having 2 kids, and they were 5 years apart. I worked, and I because of Ken's going to Control Data Institute, he had to go in the evenings to and he was learning how to program on a IBM 360s, the big room size ones. And we would go in the evening, and we had I would go with him and sit in the room there, and he would say, while he was working on his programming, his cards. That's where you put cards in and program that way. And he would tell me to operate the IBM 360 computer, and I learned how to do that. It's actually very simple. I mean, it's hardly, it sounds complex, but it's not.
Yeah, most of it was just hanging tapes or
putting in the hard drives and pushing the buttons. It's hardly any different than putting a load of wash in a washing machine and then picking which you turn it on, and then put it in the dryer and do that. So it was pretty easy to do. And then when he graduated from that, his next job was at a junior college, and he was hired as a computer operator. And again, we would go there in the evening, and this time with a small baby, and he would be programming his own programs because he was trying to build up what am I trying to think? Your not profile, but your like an artist.
like resume.
Resume. And just your programming, like a programming portfolio. And so I would go and operate that computer for him just for something to do while we're sitting there. And then I did take some computer programming classes in Pomona at Pomona. What was it called?
Chaffee Junior College.
No.
Oh. Well, she was learning to program.
Anyway, COBOL.
Yeah.
So I learned how to program in COBOL, and so I got a job. We did do a stint in Springfield, Illinois, where he got a job there for the government of Illinois, doing a payroll programming or something, and I got a job there, operating that's IBM 360 computer with Lincoln Land Junior College while he was doing his programming job with the in Springfield, being the capital of Illinois, and me at the junior college. I did that, and then when I couldn't stand the weather, it was too cold going through the winter. I just, I'm Californian, and I just said, that's it. We got to move back to California. And when we moved back there to California, I got another job for the county of Los Angeles as a computer operator. And then I didn't like the commute, and I didn't like having to drive into downtown LA. I didn't like that, and so I quit that job and got another job as a beginning COBOL programmer with Lowry's Foods, and did that for a while, not really that long, but and then I had my second child, and so by the time I would played Adventure, the text game Adventure, I just had our second baby. I wasn't working at that time, but I just wanted to give you that to show that I did have some computer and programming background.
I think sometimes people don't realize that because they attribute the design to you and the development to Ken.
Well, it's important too, because you can't just sit down and design a game, especially if you've never done it before, ever in your entire life. The only computer game you ever played was that one, and then sit down and think you can do it without having some amount of understanding of how computers worked and that kind of thing. So obviously that helped.
Yeah. When you came up with Mystery House, how did you come up with that story, and where did you start, I guess, is the big question.
That is the big question. And that's exactly what I asked myself. Okay, I want to do this. I asked myself that. But I knew after I played Colossal Cave, at the time it was called just Adventure, it was the only game that had that term. There was never any other adventure games really that I knew of. There was one company, it was called Adventure International, run by a guy named Scott Adams.
Yeah.
That I think he had also played Colossal Cave, and And so he had already had a couple little text, real simple adventure games, which I did play. I think 2 of those, and but I didn't think that it came up to. And no offense to Scott Adams, but since I worked on Colossal Cave later on in life, which was not that long ago, I realized how much more complex that game is. Scott Adams's game were very simple, as was my very first game, Mystery House. Very simple, really. But what I did was I always loved the board game Clue. That was one of my favorite board games, which is a very simple game. It's not really, big. I mean, it's big. It's very popular. It's a wonderful game. It's very popular. I think it still is. And then I kind of equated that with Agatha Christie's type of whodunits, specifically like 10 Little Indians and what is it called, Murder on the Nile or something like that. Those kind of books that I used to read, and I was wondering if there was a way that I could put together the game of Clue, which is a game, and yet a story, at least a little bit of a story, like an Agatha Christie story. And I didn't know. I knew that was, I had to somehow marry those. And I really didn't quite know how to start. And so I said, well, maybe my mom was an artist, and maybe just by drawing, maybe I come up with something. So I got a huge piece of paper, like construction paper, probably like 3 by 2, something like that, of white paper. We got it at a stationery store. And got several of them, and a pencil and an eraser. And I figured out that it's going to start in kind of an old Victorian mansion, kind of like Clue. And you're going to be there with others besides you. And so I said, okay, there's going to be others like Clue and like Agatha Christie. They're both games. They have other characters, and you have to figure out who's killing who and why and that kind of thing. And I just started drawing circles. Like, here's the house, and then inside the house, there's the entryway, and then there's a kitchen and a circle, and we go this way. East to the kitchen, and then west to the dining room, and then the stairs you go up, and then there's other stairs you go down, and I just started building the house.
Hey, you made a floor plan.
I made a floor plan, and I just started building the house, and I decided I was going to make it. There's a famous house in California called I think it's called the Winchester House.
Yeah.
And that always, I think I went there with you one time. We went there, and the idea of it always appealed to me, that he would have staircases that would just go up to nothing, just a bare wall, or that he would have passageways and and walls that would open up, and secret panels, and all kinds of things. And so I think I was starting to just draw out and put together this kind of weird house and with these things, and then I knew I eventually had to add other characters. But why were you there? It's like, why am I there? Why are they there? And I just said, well, I don't know. And I just said, okay, there's a note on the floor when you first come into the house, and if you read it, it says there's a treasure to be found. First person to find it gets to keep, finders keepers. and so I knew, okay, so there's a treasure. We have to go find a treasure. And oh, and by the way, when I enter into the house, there's like 6 other people there, and they all want to do the same thing. So it's a treasure hunt, basically.
Yeah.
And so I just start wandering through the house, and then I would run into a dead person.
You know,
was one of the people that
it happens.
we first met, in the entryway. But how was this person killed? And the clue would be left, like the game Clue. There would be a clue left. And then I'd wander some more, and there'd be another one of them, and another place would be dead in a different way. And then there was maybe the weapon was there, and I could see like a gun or something, and I could see they had been shot. And it just kind of went like that. And I just kind of was traveling through the house. But then I knew, I said, I can be killed. It dawned on me that I have to be killed too. So how am I going to do that? How am I going to design that in? I mean, it's one thing to say, okay, Mary is over here killed. She was strangled with her own. I think I made them her nylons, her pantyhose or something. I don't know.
It was the 80s.
It was, yes, and then I know there was one that was killed by a gun, and and there's somebody else was stabbed with a dagger, and there was things like that. But I had to think about how I have to be killed, and I have to be careful. And so I had to design that in somehow, and I had to think about how to make that happen. So you could be playing the game, and suddenly, just out of the blue, you're going to be killed.
Yeah.
And so I had to put in some puzzles to make sure that didn't happen, if you could figure that out, and that you'd have inventory objects that you can take with you. And then there were some puzzles to be done. And as I started drawing and doing circles and thinking about it, they came to me, just the ideas just came to me, and I just put them down. I wrote them down, and some of these ideas didn't work, and I just threw away that big piece of paper, and I brought in a new one, and I started drawing again and again, and took me a couple of months. And when I finally got it all done, I remember the day that I kind of got it done, and I could see the entire game. It was like a big flow chart, kind of, in a way. And I could look at it in one piece and see the entire game. And I looked at it and I said, you know what? I have a game here. It's got puzzles. I know you go through it. I know how it starts. I know how it ends. I know who does what. I know who the killer is. And where all the danger spots are for me to get killed, and here it is. And that's when I asked him to program it, because I was not a good enough programmer to do this by any means. And he agreed to, and so we talked about it, and we divvied up the work. He said, rather than it being a text-only game, I was figuring it'd be just a text-only game, kind of like Scott Adams did. And he said, no, I think we could figure out how to put pictures and graphics to this. And I was like, really? Really, we can do that? And he says, I think so. I think we can figure it out. And of course, he figured all that stuff out and set me up to do the art. Now, the art, if you've ever seen Mystery House, is terrible. It is.
I like to call it, what's that word? Quaint.
Well,
yeah.
But in a way, I think even if you had been a really good artist, it wouldn't have looked much better, because the way you explain why.
Well, I mean, it was a different world then. We were talking. I think the Apple II was originally released in a 4K version and a 16K version, and with only 16K of memory. by going for the big Apple II, and floppy disk, which only had 80K, much of which was used by the operating system. You couldn't do a whole lot. And Roberta designed a game that had 50 rooms or something.
It was like 52, or I think.
Yeah, I started trying to build it, and I wanted to do graphics, but nobody at that time had ever done graphics on the Apple II. So it wasn't even clear that it could be done, but I looked at the hardware manuals and said, sure, I think I can figure this out. And maybe, somebody somewhere had done vector graphics, but I certainly never heard of it. And nobody had done it yet on the Apple II. But I came up with the idea of just storing endpoints of lines, and there was a way to, there was a device that came out called a Versa, what was it?
Versa Writer?
Versa Writer, which was basically just a couple of joysticks in effect, but you could define endpoints of lines with it.
It's like had an acrylic bottom.
Yeah,
it's like
a couple of
square
arms
and flat. It was like an acrylic piece of acrylic.
Well, whatever it was, I somehow managed to do it so that Roberta could sketch.
It had a little magnetic arm on it, articulated arm.
Yeah.
And then he could attach that graphics tablet to our Apple II, and the magnetic articulated arm I could move around on a picture. So and the magnetic, it was almost reminded me like a record player or something, that you would, but except that it's not articulated on a record player, but so you can move it around and follow. So what I had to do is draw very simple pictures. They had to be really simple. So a house, so I could do like a square, but I had to do it on a piece of paper. So I had a ruler to try to make the lines straight and everything as much as possible. And I would draw a simple picture of a house on a piece of paper, but then I would tape the paper to the Versa Writer on top of the acrylic, and then take the articulated arm with the little magnetic point over the picture and it would put the lines into the computer. I mean, I don't know how that works. Maybe he can explain that better.
It's embarrassing. I mean, the industry was so young in those days that doing anything was innovative. Now you can do 3D graphics.
But I mean, trying to do art with that, and the articulated arm didn't move that easily, and sometimes it wouldn't even stay straight on the line, and so the picture that I had to do had to be so simple. I mean, trying to do human figures was just a little better than stick figures. I mean, and they're terrible, but that's really the best that we could do.
I think you pulled it off. I wonder what it was that was driving you to that. I mean, you why create a game? Why try and figure out how to program it? Was it a learning thing?
Well, no, I think I sort of alluded to the fact that I was kind of a flaky, airheaded, smart, but didn't have an idea of anything what I wanted to do and with my life. And yeah, I could operate an IBM 360 computer, but that's not hard. And I learned some programming, but I didn't like it. And so now I had 2 little kids, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And this was during, the time period of, you might remember the women's lib time period, and women's liber, and burn your bra, and all that kind of stuff. And then, to get married and have kids and just be a housewife, kind of thing was all around. And I just felt like I wasn't living up to expectations of what I should be and what I should do.
So it wasn't on a whim. This was a mission. You had a goal, and
I felt kind of empty because I knew I was not living up to what I could do. I wasn't, and I was sort of falling back on, maybe I have these kids and, doing that, but I was not fulfilled. And no, I loved him very much. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I was a good mother. But I knew there was something more. And when I played Colossal Cave, I became obsessed. I was addicted. I constantly wanted to play it. I had to solve it. I had to get every point. I had to, and I was just obsessed by it. And I remember saying to Ken that I've never been like that. I never was obsessed by anything like that. And I didn't quite understand it, but I knew that I wanted to do it. And it opened up, it told me who I was, basically. It opened me up to, that's what I want to do. And I was going to do it. It was like, the light bulb moment, and you see in cartoons, the light bulb suddenly turned on. And I wanted to do that, and I knew that that was what I was going to do.
I know that feeling well, because when I was first introduced to Sierra games, my first experience with Sierra was King's Quest III.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I learned how to program on a TRS-80. I played Lunar Lander and all the word games and everything. And my mother had, single mother raising 2 kids. She had got me a Tandy 1000 for Christmas, and I was so excited. And then she brought out this game, this King's Quest III game. And I'll never forget when we loaded up the discs and hearing that music and seeing the graphics. Now, it's a long way from Mystery House, as you know.
Yeah, of course.
And that game is what brought us together. My mom and I. Was a terrible child, but that game saved us. And I
was
really
a little that way too. We're precocious because we're so smart.
Is that what it is? All right, I'm going to use that one.
I think there is a little bit of that. I do. I think there's a little bit of it.
But there is that moment. We were addicted to that game. I was addicted to that game. I wanted to know how it worked. And now I've got the designer of the game in front of me, the developer of the game in front of me. Now I get to know how that happened, how it worked.
Well, I understand how it feels. I have people say to me, they come up to me, especially like at fan fairs and, some of the computer fairs and places where there are fans, and they tell me how much they love my games and thank me, and I wouldn't be in this business, or I learned English from you playing your games if they were from another country, for instance. And but my hero is Will Crowther, who and Don Woods, that they designed Colossal Cave, and that's what started me. So I have my mentors, and so I know I was just thrilled. I wish I could have met Will Crowther, especially because without him, I wouldn't have. I don't know to this day what I would have done to this day. And he came up with the very first adventure game, and that was it.
Ken, what about you? What was it about computers that you decided to get into it?
I don't know. I like the challenge. I like a good puzzle and solving problems, and I don't know anybody that's ever. What's that?
Well, when I first met him, the first date, that when I went out with him, that one he asked me, and my dad was going, go out with him. He told me that he had just started college at
Cal Poly University in Pomona.
That was the one I was trying to think of. Cal Poly in Pomona. And I said, oh, what are you studying? And he said, physics. And I said, oh, you want to be a physicist? You could be like a scientist? And he looked at me like, he goes, well, I don't know. I just picked it, and I didn't get the sense that he had a big love for it. And then he took a computer class. That was his major, as a minor. And a few months later, he came to me and said, I have decided that I'm changing my major. I'm going to be a computer programmer. So that's how that happened.
Ah, gotcha. Can we talk a little bit about King's Quest and how you came up with that idea?
Well, the second game I ever did was called The Wizard and the Princess. And we did that one had to be a very quick design, because King's Quest, Mystery House did so well. I mean, it just surprised both Ken and I as to how well it did. I mean,
it did really well.
It did extremely well, to the point where he could quit his job, and we just decided we'll work together and just design games together, and because it was fun to work with him with me, and so he said to me, "You've got to design another game. We can't live on Mystery House alone." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, what am I?" And this comes back to, how do you decide what your game's going to be? What it's going to be? What's the story? What's the characters? How do you get started? It's a little like, I'm going to paint a picture, and what's it going to be a picture of? Or I'm going to write a book, and what's it about? And and he says, and you have to do it quickly. So I went back to my childhood, and my childhood was about fairy tales, and I was a bookworm as a little girl. I loved to read. Still love to read, but I liked. Fairy tales were the books that got me really started to read obsessively, and I read every fairy tale book you can get, every one of them. And in those days, you had to go to the library. We didn't have the internet, as you know. So I became, my mom and I, a fixture at our local library. And so she'd take me to the library, and I'd go in immediately to the area of all the fairy tale books. And I could check out something like 4 or 5 books or something like that. So I would get them, and then we'd check them out, go home, and I would read them within 2 days or so. I read them all, 2 or 3 days, and I need more. So we'd go back to the library, and I'd turn in my books, and I get new books, and I did that. And then I learned to kind of start reading adventure style books too, and that kind of got me into the idea of adventuring beyond just fairy tales. And they got into myths and legends. And as I got older, they became like Greek myths, and then they became legends and things like King Arthur, and just things like that. And just more and more I started reading those kind of things. So I said, okay, that's the kind of stuff I really liked as a kid and becoming a teenager. But I said, I think what I'll do is I'll start out and I'll do a game based on fairy tales. And so what I did is I just put together a lot of fairy tale characters that I could, Little Red Riding Hood, all that kind of stuff, and Hansel and Gretel, and I just made a long list of those characters, and then I said, okay, but now I have to figure out who are you? You are always at this point. You are you. We didn't have a little character that you could walk around. So it was all from first person perspective. So you were always you. You are here. You are doing this. You are this and that. And so I didn't have to explain who I was, but but I had to explain what you're doing. What are you doing? And in this case, you find out that I'm trying to remember it. I'm trying to remember the story now, because I get mixed up now with King's Quest. But
ever get Mystery House mixed up with Colonel's Bequest?
Yeah, there's you might notice that there are. I sometimes would take the old and bring it up and make it new. But I know I had to rescue a damsel in distress, and from a evil witch who had her in a tower. Oh no, it was a wizard. That's right, Wizard and the Princess. Yeah, and that you had to rescue her and be the hero. And in the meantime, you had to wander around this land. I called it Serenia. And you had to wander around it, and you had to figure out how to get to where she is, and how to find her, and how to save her, and how you're going to get inventory objects to get through this land and not get killed yourself by, say, a wandering ogre, or something like that. And it basically just put together all these kind of characters from fairy tales and kind of weaved this basic kind of story. I wouldn't call it a very complex story, but it was what I could do quickly.
Was your process the same, where you had all
pretty
the
much
note cards?
Same. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Weren't note cards. They were big pieces of paper.
Right.
And I would do, okay, you're here, you're in front of a castle, or you're in a forest, and the forest might be several circles like a maze. And then within it, there might be a house like Hansel and Gretel or something.
So it sounds like you map out your world first, your physical world, whether it be the house or the forest or the kingdom, and then you bring in the puzzles.
And I did that all the way through my entire career. Every game I did started that way.
Although the final design had wind up being a book of hundreds of pages.
Yeah. After I did that, that's the only way I could see the game. I had to see it visually, and I had to feel it by drawing a map, basically. And I had to do that. That's how I could connect the next place you go, and who are you going to meet, what are you going to do. And little by little, as I went through time, I learned how. They started out so simple that way, but as I moved on, I learned how to do better stories that connected. They became actually stories. And really, when we finally were able to do the first King's Quest, is when I had an actual character that you could guide. And the first 5 games I worked on were all first-person perspective, and it was you. It was always you, and I never really ever explained who you were. I just always felt like, well, you're you. You're playing the game. That's who you are. And your goal is to rescue a princess, from a tower and from an evil wizard. But once I had that little character, King Graham or Sir Graham, and it changed everything in how I thought about designing, because he was an actual character. He had a gender, and he had a look, and he had a name, and he was a knight. And at this point, and he was going to work for the king, and the king came to him in Daventry and said, "You are my favorite knight, and Daventry's falling apart, and you need to find these 3 royal treasures of Daventry that were stolen by the evil hag, Hagatha, or whatever she was, and you have to bring those back, because Daventry is just deteriorating in front of our eyes, and and without them, and he said what they were, the 3, and so you had to go and find the 3, find the 3 treasures of Daventry when you bring it back, and then blah blah blah. So I was able to start weaving in a little more story, more dialogue with other characters, more puzzles, better puzzles. better storylines, and it was really a learning process because I had never done this in my life. But
Nobody had really.
Nobody had. I think I was one of the first.
Yeah, there was no roadmap. I mean, today everybody thinks it's third person. There's
oh God, I mean, it's not. It's
the
like,
word avatar hadn't been invented yet. It's kind of it was a different world.
So I everything was by the seat of my pants. Just had to do it, and I made mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes. Some of it was due to just with the technology of the day, you could only do so much. I made some mistakes. I could do better, and I learned how I learned how to. I not only did I design the game and the characters and all that, but the interfaces,
right?
How I was going to interface with the game, and so there. But I had to learn that too, and I just as time went on, I just was able to do it, more and more. And
I was going to ask you about the interface and taking the player into account. When you're thinking about your designs, how do you sort of wrestle with that?
I always said, and when I first started doing this, with my first maybe 3 games, maybe I didn't have any sense of story, not really. It was more like, here's what you have to do. You have to go save the princess out of the tower, or you have to go and find that treasure, and not get killed, or you have to go. There was a goal, and it's and that was it, and it wasn't that complex. But as time went on, I knew I had to create better stories, more complex stories, more evocative stories, and the way you did that was, I used to describe it pretty well. The secret was, you have to let the player explore. You have to give them some rope where they can just wander around and try to discover their environment, the environment that they're at. And I also discovered I have to have more than one environment. And I started calling them regions. So you'd have say the Daventry region, and then you could go to like a desert region, or a mountainous and with ice and snow region, or an ocean region, or an island region. And I started realizing I have to make them bigger, and I have to make them more interesting, with more other places to explore besides just the one big main region. Like in the case of Mystery House, the main region is the house.
Right.
So you're really in one place. And even with the Wizard and the Princess, you're in Serenia. You don't go anywhere else. You just have to find within Serenia where that tower and the princess is. But I realized I have to give them more exploration space. However, in order to facilitate a story, keep a story together, you have to. How do you keep a story together and let them explore at the same time? Because as they explore, they're going to kind of start messing up because every story is linear, right? Book is linear. A movie is linear. You read a book, the writer of a book is not letting you explore the book. Like, I think I'm going to go in the middle of the book and read now, and then I'll go back over here and read there, and somehow I'll piece the story, right? You're not going to
one heck of a book.
You're not going to do that. So I had to think how, because I started getting much better about what I was really doing, and really beginning to understand what I was really doing. And I had to figure out how to maintain a story and let people explore. And the way to do that is each region, I would give them pretty much exploration. They could wander around pretty much where they want, and I'm not telling them they can't. They can't go over here and and talk to this character over there, or over here and explore the edge of a lake and maybe go in it and die or something. I don't know. Or go somewhere else over here. You can go over there. Explore the region. Talk, pick up objects, see what's around, if there are any bad guys, good guys, what's going on here. Clues. I might not be able to get into this little house unless I find a key, maybe somewhere, and I find a key and get in and get it. But I'm not stopping them. The only way I'm really stopping them in a region is by, like, you need a key or something, if you could find it, or just some simple way to stop them. But I have to get back to the story. Start the story with a goal, like your favorite game. King's Quest 3, you find out. I'm trying to remember how it begins. How does it begin?
I love the beginning because you start in the farmhouse and the wizard is telling you to do this chore, and you're just a farm boy, and you've got to either go feed the chickens or you've got to empty the chamber pot.
Well, in that case, yeah. So I started out with a story. I tell you who you are, where you are, what's the circumstances that you're in. Where and you may not even know exactly where you are. That I might say, well, at first you have to even discover that. What's your relationship, say, to this wizard? And I definitely give the idea to you that you want out, but you don't really know who. You don't even really know who you are. You think you know who you are. You have a name, but as it's going to turn out, it's not your real name, because you really are the stolen prince from Daventry, Alexander. But I'm trying to think, what's the name I gave him at the beginning?
I was trying to think too.
Yeah,
I couldn't remember.
What is his name?
Graham?
No.
I thought it was Graham.
No, that's his father. He's king by now. By King's Quest 3.
Alexander?
Gwen. I thought it started with a G. Gwen.
Gwendolyn?
No, it's a boy. Gwyndon, or it was something like that.
Gwydion.
Gwydion. That was what it was. His name was
to the wizard Manannan.
Yeah. So Gwydion. He thought he was Gwydion. You think he. So anyway, but I set up enough of the story that you know who you are. You're just some poor boy, and you're living with this wizard who kind of raised you, and he treats you like a slave. And
he's an awful guy, that wizard.
He's terrible, and he's mean. He's just mean, and so the idea is set up in your mind that you have to escape and get out. And you don't even know if that you even necessarily have to find your real identity, but you'll learn that over time. So it starts out that way, and as you go, there's got to be more pieces of the story come to you as the player, and that happens by letting you explore your first environment and find out everything you can find out. But then I had to, as a designer, to make sure that you come to a place in the game where you are told more about what's going on. And that has to happen before you can move to the next phase.
Right.
But it has to be done in a way that you don't know that you're being led there. So that's what the designer does. The designer lets you explore the first region and then take you to a spot where you learn the things you need to learn to move on. Maybe that's getting into the next region or the next place, or it opens up some other things that you can do where you can explore some more. So I always talked about it like kind of like a necklace. So you have your bead, you explore. then you come back to a spot, and then you have more exploration, and then you come back to a spot, and then opens up another one. But you always have to come back to where the story can keep going forward. And once I learned how to do that, that's when I could start experimenting with more and more complex stories and characters and emotions.
And explore you did. I mean, you went from Mystery House and the Colonel's Bequest and King's Quest and whatnot. And then you went over to Phantasmagoria.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that. How did you go from the quest type games to Phantasmagoria?
Well, I always tried to do a game in between a quest game, because I didn't want to get typecast as, oh, you're the fairy tale King's Quest person. So I tried to do something in between each King's Quest. Sometimes I would be doing a King's Quest and another game at the same time. Or I would be doing a King's Quest and I would be working with another designer as kind of a mentor, to kind of teach them the ropes. People like Jane Jensen, Allo, even the two guys from Andromeda, those guys.
Space Quest, yeah.
Space Quest, their first games, I kind of became the person to sit down with them and go over how to do this.
Yeah, you had a blueprint by then.
Yeah, and so I would work with them on a game, and sometimes it'd be my game but with them, or it would be their game but I would work with them for a while. And it just kind of depended who the actual designer was. So I would mix up things that way, but I always tried to do, so I'd do a King's Quest, and then I would do like Mixed Up Mother Goose, because I had
that one, yeah.
I had a 4 or 5-year-old at the time, and so I was kind of into that mode. And then I would do the next King's Quest, and then I might do Colonel's. No, I think I did Colonel's Bequest. No, I did that after King's Quest. Yeah, I did that. Then I would do a Colonel's Bequest. And then I'd do another King's Quest. And then I would do something else. And I think like one thing I did was the Black Cauldron.
Oh, I remember that one too. Yeah.
Yeah, the Disney game.
I didn't realize you had done that one.
Yeah, and I did that with
it was a Sierra.
I did that with Allo, and he and I did that together. And then so I would try to do games in between King's Quest. So I was always looking for something else. And I love doing the Colonel's Bequest. I wanted that to be a Laura Bow murder mystery series. There was another series I was trying to start, and with the Colonel's Bequest, because it did really well, and I wanted to do that and do the second one, but I got stuck doing another King's Quest. And so I worked with Bruce Balfour on the second Laura Bow. That was the Dagger of Amun Ra, and I worked with him on getting that designed. But I basically turned that over to him pretty quickly after the design was fixed, to let him finish it, because I had to go on to another King's Quest. So I guess I was always, but I liked the idea of like with Mystery House. Mystery House was a murder mystery. Then the Laura Bow mystery series was, who done it, basically, both of them, and there was going to be murder and blood, a little bit of that, and so I kind of liked that too. And so we were at I think it was what's it called, CES?
Probably CES.
CES, where we played I think it was a King's Quest 4, where I came out with with Rosella as a character, where she had to go and save her father's, King Graham's, life by getting the magic fruit, from wherever it was. And we were there, and we came up with this opening cartoon. I always called it the opening, cartoon, the opening scene of the game that set who you are, what you're going to do. And we showed that King Graham was there in the throne room of the castle, and he was talking to his daughter Rosella, when all of a sudden he just grabbed his heart and he just like collapsed, like he was going to die, and he was maybe going to die, and then somehow Rosella was told, and I don't remember, this is all very.
It was the first game where we had a professional composer.
Yes, and and then we had a professional composer, and I
Hollywood composer, I should say.
Hollywood composer, and I lived with him for about a week to get the music done for it. He did it. I didn't do it, but I had to tell him the mood, and this, mood. This is sad, and then this is happy, or this is, whatever. But we were watching that opening scene of King Graham clutching and falls to the ground, and Rosella runs over. Oh, father, oh, she's crying, and she's told how she could save his life if she can go find this magic fruit of life. But while watching this, and I had this, this big music and sad. Some women in the audience at CES, because we had put people could come in and watch the opening scene to this game, and on the big screen. And some women started crying.
Oh no!
When he fell. And I looked at Ken. I was like, "Oh my God, can you believe this?" They're literally crying. I mean, I thought it was kind of cool, but it's like, wow, okay. So we actually did some ads. This game can make you cry. With ads. And so I thought about that, and I said, well, obviously we kind of cracked the code on that one. At least we know that there is a game that can make you cry. Can there be a game that can scare you? Really scare you?
Yeah.
And I became obsessed with the idea. I wanted to see if I could really scare people playing a game. And this was about the time that people were. This was in the early 90s, I think, that game designers were trying to figure out how to. They were putting out some scary and sometimes gory games, and they were testing out ideas on doing full motion video game with cameras, and like a movie, but it's a game. And I was looking. What are some of those?
No, let's see. There was the one by Don Knuth that was in Quarter Arcades.
Oh, Dragon Slayer, I think.
Yeah, right? Dragon Slayer. That was out at the time.
Mm-hmm. I thought there was like Night something, or.
I'm trying to think what else there was. It wasn't much, but there were a couple of experiments that had been done.
Yeah, and I looked
Nothing
at them.
Like Phantasmagoria, though.
No, but I looked at them, and because I could see where they were trying to do in my mind, what I wanted to do, which was to see if I could scare people, get them really drawn in. Like, you can get scared watching a movie.
Yeah.
I know, where you go, oh my God. I don't want to see it. I wanted to know if that's possible with a computer game. So I really thought about it a lot, and I got real excited by trying to think of it. And I spent almost 4 years on the game, on Phantasmagoria, thinking about it. studying how to write horror. And this is much more than a whodunit, much more than that. I wanted to do true horror. And I always enjoyed reading Stephen King novels and, and the haunted house stories, like House on Haunted Hill. And, I always kind of liked being scared a little bit. And I read Danse Macabre. That was Stephen King's. He did like a textbook on how to write horror, and I read that. And then I started watching horror movies, reading horror books, having people tell me scariest campfire stories they have. what more I was like inundating myself with horror for about 6 months, because I was really trying to pick apart what are the real scary aspects that people just go like that. What are those? Watching horror movies, and what are the spots that really hit you, and how does that work? And how do I weave that into a story of my own? And I got to the point where I started having nightmares.
Oh, no.
Literally nightmares. And I would wake up screaming, and I just said, you know what? I think I'm there. I did it. Stop doing that. That's starting to affect me, and that's not good. So I said, it's time I have to sit down and write the game. I've done enough research. If I can't figure it out now, I'm never going to figure it out. So, and I started writing it, and I did it the same way. Big piece of paper. Now, in this case, though, I didn't feel qualified in many ways to be that scary and gory, because that's not me. I really am more of a fairy tale person. But this was something I wanted to do. I wanted to experiment with it, and my art director, Andy Hoyos, Hoyos, and he came to Sierra from Hollywood as an art director, and I mean, he was great. And I sat down with him, and I came up with the first run of what I wanted the story to be about, and it was going to have a female avatar, and she was going to be the hero. And I had the basic idea, some of it kind of leaning a bit on Mystery House, and even to a certain extent Colonel's Bequest. The house for Phantasmagoria is very similar to both of those two houses.
Yeah.
So I had that, and then I said I want to meet with you, Andy, every day, and we're really going to flesh it out. We got to really flesh out the story, because I need your input. He was going to be the one to design, and we're gonna design it as a 3D game. It's not 3D in the sense like with our game Colossal Cave. You're running through it, and all the pixels are running by you. Like you're turning and you're looking like this, and you can see it all. We would make it a completely 3D rendered set and game, and he was going to be the one to do it, and he was fantastic artist, and then we would use the 3D renderings to do camera angles, and we would use it that way. But he had an imagination that was just beyond imagination, and we worked together so well, and he and I came up with all the fun, scary stuff, and things I would never have come up with myself. And it got pretty gory at times, and I would say to him, when it comes to the really gory stuff, like how Carno kills his wives, I don't know if you played it or not, but I can't do that. I mean, I could do it like I did with Mystery House, like, oh yeah, just shot him with a gun, like that. And that's not really scary, not in the way that could be scary. And he says, oh, let me think on that. And so I'd say, okay, let's figure out how this wife is going to be killed. And he'd come back the next day and say, I got it. And he would tell me how he thought that she could be killed. And I would go, oh my God, really? And I'd say, that seems a little much. And he would say, oh, I think it's great. I think it's great. And he would say, he wanted it to be scary.
It was.
And I said, well, this is scary, all right. And I said, I would go, okay, well, we'll do it. And so I have to credit Andy Hoyos for a lot for that. But it was not an easy game to do. And it cost Sierra a lot of money to do. We had to build our own studio to do it. I decided to use actors in a 3D computer world because you're not going to be empathetic to a cartoon character.
No.
And if you can't be empathetic, you're not going to be scared.
Yeah.
You're going to be scared by the reactions of a real person. And it worked.
It worked really well.
Many people tell me they could not play that game if they were in their house by themselves or at night. And so that's the story of that.
Well, I do have a lot of questions. I want to see what it was like coming back after your hiatus from the game development world. I know when I left it and came back, it changed quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let Ken talk about that because he's been feeling lonely here. But we did decide to do Colossal Cave really as kind of an honoring. We just wouldn't be here without that. We just wouldn't. And Will Crowther is my hero. And I thought it was time to bring it back to the computer game world. So that's kind of why we chose to do that. But now it's Ken's turn.
Well, let's see. Many people come back because they need the money or, I don't know, need the fame or something. And in our case, it wasn't really any of that. It was simply that I heard about Unity and Unreal, the modern programming engines, and got curious what they were and how they worked. Hadn't really thought about computer games in a long time, and started watching YouTube videos on how to work with them. And as I was doing it, I kind of thought back on the Sierra days because we developed all of our games using a in-house developed language called SCI. And so I was just, it was more like curiosity about what the language was like. And watched all the videos and then said, well, I should probably try to program a little game just to really get inside of how these things work. And curious what modern game development engines were like. And so I started coding. I wanted to do kind of a Dr. Brain type thing like we used to do, a kid's game just to have something simple to do. And told Roberta, and she thought that was boring. And she came up with the idea of doing a remake of the old classic adventure game because it was already designed. Right. And so she thought it would be easy. And I started tackling it with one artist. And we actually got the thing basically done. But
in 3D, in all 3D.
In 3D, but it looked like, I mean, AI has changed the world. I don't know if you want to go there, but
I don't know. You got to charge up for that conversation.
Oh yeah,
another one. This was
4 years ago before AI came along, and when coding was really hard. Now you don't even got a code to code, but. When we were finished, it looked like a two-person game, and I thought about releasing it under a pseudonym or just throwing it away. And I mean, it was a really good effort for a two-person, 60-day game. It was. you kind of get out what you put in. And
well, I looked at it, and it was definitely not up to par. Not for something with my name on it. So, and my name was going to be on it, not as the designer, but because that's Will Crowther and Don Woods, their game. And I always wanted to give them full credit for the design, but I was going to be the reimaginer of it.
Yeah.
And which I liked that,
well,
but not changing it at all. But
when Roberta got involved, we threw away everything that was done, and the budget jumped from $30 to a couple $1 million.
No, not that much.
1.7, something like that.
Way
a team
more
of
than
35 people, and
way more than it should have been.
Yeah, well, more than I never would have in the old Sierra days approved a budget that big for a game that was 50 years old, because it. First off, everybody's played it, and second off, it's not really a good match for today's gamers.
Well,
it's a wonderful game, but a lot of the gamers today, the mainstream, the mass market, doesn't have a whole lot of attention span, and plus
that
the world's
could be a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, the world, it's kind of binary. I mean, there's the big AAA games, and then there's the indie games, and the big AAA games get the vast majority of the money, and there's so many games coming out every day that trying to break through is hard. And
we've been gone for 25 years.
And we've been gone 25 years. Most of today's
gamers never heard of us.
I tell you, my kids have heard of you because that's all I talk about. What are these games today? These guys need to go back to Sierra because that's when they knew how to make games, is what I would tell them.
Well, I like to think that. But
I mean, if we were going to do a comeback, it would have been a different game. And actually, there is some talk, or at least I'm thinking about maybe doing a game again, because AI can make possible things that wouldn't have been before. But we'll see. I don't want to do a big team again. We're kind of retired and living happily ever after.
That's the thing. It is expensive to. A lot of people, the indie games, they do it themselves, or much of it themselves, and they have some really good ideas, but they can't do anything that's like really beautiful, and just big music and just really top notch, like Pixar top notch, and whatever, because it's just them, and and maybe a friend or something. And we've talked to so many of them that, hey, will you publish our game, and we look at it, and it's just them working on it, and they come out as indie games, and many of them don't do anything, and I feel sort of bad for them, but that's the way it is. You have to basically be a big company with lots and lots of money, because people now expect huge. I mean, we were surprised. I mean, by the time we finished with doing Colossal Cave, it was over $1 million, and we could afford it, but it was like we're going, oh my God. I mean, it shouldn't be this much, but it was, and we're still. I am saying we're still selling it. We're working on ads and marketing it, and and you maybe will help us a little bit. Talk about
absolutely.
Colossal Cave 3D. To try to, I said, I'll be happy if I can at least get our money back. I don't care about a profit. Just get our money back, and. Right now, we're just really, we're all about Colossal Cave right now, and just trying to sell it. I think it's a great game. I think we did a good job. Is it for today's modern, I like to say, players? Not so much. It's. Did you ever play it?
I did. I actually pre-ordered
or
it.
Or the text game even, or?
I did. I did.
So it's. I mean, you have to. It is the very first computer game, ever really designed.
Yeah, it's not for everybody. It's for me. I enjoy it.
Well, I mean, the thing is, what we were told by we had about 35 people that we hired remotely because this was all done during COVID, and they were all avid gamers and younger, and everything, and they would say to me, I don't. Gamers aren't going. Today's gamers are probably not going to like this game or understand it. And I would say, why? It's a great game. I mean, I think it's a great game, and they would say because modern players don't have the patience, and they're modern players, and they said, oh no, they don't want to die. If you have to die, they don't want that. They will not put up with that. And I said, what do you mean? I mean, dying is kind of part of it.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. If you play a board game and you get thrown out of the game, you land on a one of the squares that says, okay, you have to go to jail now. Okay, and you're out of the game or something like Monopoly. And that's it. Did you die actually? No, you just lost. That's the way I look at it. You just lost. It's not that you literally died. And I always tried to have my characters die kind of in a funny way.
Yeah.
Except for in Fantastic-Gory.
There's nothing funny about that.
No. But I normally, try to be, tongue in cheek, a little bit about dying, but they say, oh no, they don't die in games anymore. That's like, and I said, well, I'm not changing it. So I mean that I'm gonna keep it the way it always was. So like if those dwarves throw a knife at you and they get you, and you're dead. I'm sorry, but that's the way it was in the original game. So
you had to honor the original game too. I mean, of
course.
Like you said, that was your heroes, your mentors.
Well, and I knew that. I mean, millions, not millions, but at least 1 million people have played that game over all the years. The old text game. So it was not like it wasn't known. It was well known. And I said to the people, the kids, the artists, the programmers we were working with, that if I change it, they say, oh, you can change it. You could add your own puzzles. You don't have to keep it the same as it is. You could make it more to fit in today's world and all that kind of stuff. And I said, no, I can't. I said, if I change anything on it as far as the gameplay, it's kind of like I'm what's the word? You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.
Right.
If I change it, I'm in trouble by those that know the game and historically and everything. I would be a bad person. If I keep it the same, you're telling me that I'm damned because the modern players won't like it. So I'm just going to keep it as it is. I will decide what the graphics look like. But we tried to keep in line with the descriptions of Will Crowther and Don Woods of where you are in the cave and what it looks like. I worked very closely with our lead artist to make sure that we followed the directions as closely as we could.
I think you two nailed it. I mean, you think you want to do another game?
Yeah. Well, actually, I just finished a product, which is commercial product, but it's more of it's actually a marine radar simulator because
we're boating right now.
Yeah, we kind of have a second 15 minutes of fame within the boating industry. Where I went through
and the book industry. You've got a book. He's got a couple books. I've seen them.
Yeah, my book did well. So
yeah.
We're not mine, but that's okay.
But no,
I liked your book.
Well, the problem with it is, I think it would do well, but I meant it to be a trilogy, and I have to go on with the story. I mean, I've got all of the material I need, and he's been telling me I need to write it. That people, it's like I leave the characters in the midair. Like, so what happens to them? That's the problem with it. And he says if you write all 3 books, that probably would do well. But I need to do that.
Anyway. Yeah, on Unreal versus Unity, I guess my feeling is that it's kind of going to become irrelevant in that when you look into the future pretty quickly, people are going to be coding in AI, and how it gets implemented in the back end almost becomes irrelevant. So just like these days when you're talking to an AI, people can swap out models between Opus and I don't know, and GPT.
Just
5,
not Fable 5.
Yeah, Fable 5. From what I've heard, Fable 5 is a order of magnitude better. And
Yeah, they pulled it.
yeah, well, temporarily. I would bet that the next time we talk, or 6 months from now, that it's out there, or something stronger. And I would predict that 6 months or a year from now, when you build a game, that it's done at a higher level than Unreal or Unity, and that the AI will decide the best implementation platform. I started the radar simulator, which is a pretty complex product, probably bigger than I could have done alone. And I set a kind of a goal because I wanted to see if I could build a game and do it with what they call vibe coding, just talking to the AI.
Yep.
And so I forced myself not to even look at the code and not to make any changes to the code and see if I could really build a product. Yeah, I kept wanting to go into the code to make a change because the AI can be a little stupid at times. But I forced myself to stay away from that and just say, do this, do that. And I went through over 200 iterations with the AI to build the product. But at the end of it, I could see that even with what will now be considered 6 months from now, prehistoric AI models, and I built a product, and it is a commercially viable, good product.
And he did it quickly.
Yeah, I did it quickly. I did it
all by himself.
A couple months all by myself, graphics and all. And so I'm thinking for the next thing to do some sort of a fairly easy game. And then hopefully Fable will be there after that, and I can do it much more.
Are you going to design the game?
Huh? There's some abandoned titles by Sierra that Microsoft's not going to carry on the series. And so I'm kind of picking through those, thinking if there's an easy one that could be continued.
But they're not the bestsellers of Sierra.
Yeah, no.
They're kind of
the second tier.
Not losers,
but really, at this point in our life, I'm focused on
a project,
exploring interesting new technologies. We're past that age where you can hope to change the world or build a big company.
No, we don't want to do that.
I'm past that age too, so I feel it.
We don't want to do that.
I just want to do something cool and keep busy and not become kind of a dinosaur or something where people say, well, he used to know how to build games. I want to build a current game, and I want it to be fun for players.
I have some questions for you, Tammy. I'm assuming that you're kind of into the world of gaming into today. Are you? You still kind of up to date on what's out there and what's working well?
My kids probably are more than I am. I have an addiction to World of Warcraft, so I sort of stay in the big MMOs, and I'm always chasing Sierra-like games, and I never find them, so I get frustrated with games.
Yeah, because I've thought about maybe Keith's been talking to me like, why don't you come up with a game design and we'll try using AI, and I could use AI to get it done. And but I don't know how that would really work in reality, out there. A Sierra type adventure game, I don't know. Is that popular anymore? With today's, I have my doubts. Yeah.
No, I have a confession to make. I've been working on a 3D point and click adventure game, gosh, for the better part of too many years to even admit to publicly, because I do so many different things, and game development and design is just only part of it.
Yeah.
And much to my surprise, it's a small audience, but there are players out there that are eager for the point and click, especially the 3D versions. They're eager for the story. Like you said before, with having the ability to explore their world. That is just...
Yes. I think the thing that Colossal Cave, one reason why hasn't done as well among Sierra fans, it has, but not as well as I would have thought, is because, and I've heard this refrain quite a bit, but it isn't your game, Roberta. We wanted a game by you. This is not a game that you would design, and there's some truth to that. But a lot of not a lot, but I've heard that they were wanting a game by me, with a character and like what they remembered. And not Phantasmic. Colossal Cave is not that, and it's not.
Yeah, I think when I read the news that you were coming back after being away for so long, and I didn't really know what you were going to do at that time, I too felt that way. I'm like, this is great. This is the game that I've been waiting 25 years for. And then while I enjoyed Colossal Cave and I thought it was a fantastic reimagining for today, and Ken, I'm glad you got to use Unity and kind of get back your feet wet again. I wanted so much for the Roberta games. I was like, so there was a little bit of a letdown, and I don't know, maybe you'll change your mind. And
yeah, well,
you might get it.
I don't know. I might do it. I might.
Enjoying the show? Good. We want to keep it that way. If you've got a guest suggestion, a story to share, or just something to say, we want to hear from you. Send us a message at interviews@roundaboutcreativechaos.com. Now, where were we? It's the second part of the show, and it's just a series of 13 questions. And the first question is, what is your favorite word?
Well, mine, I actually do have one. It's serendipity. And I've told people over the years that's my very favorite word, because I love the unexpected happy surprise. You're not expecting it, and then suddenly it could be a downer day you're having, and suddenly something really wonderful and unexpected happens, and it to make your day. That's my favorite word, serendipity.
I bet you can.
Oh, me? Oh, probably, I don't know, challenge. I like to tackle challenges, do things other people thought wasn't possible.
What's your least favorite word?
I wanted to say, I had one, and then what was the one I was thinking about last night?
While she's thinking, I'll say mine is probably later. I always want everything now. I have no patience for anything. So when somebody says, I'll get to it later, I'm kind of like, forget it. I want it now. So
I would say for me, hate or anger. I really, really dislike that a lot. Well, I mean, it's not as you might expect. So that would be for me.
Which do you like most? Books, movies, music, or games?
For me, probably books.
Yeah, and I'm probably more movies. Well, especially YouTube. I live on YouTube. I kind of always got it going somewhere, and I got something going. So I don't know if that counts as movies or
movies. Neither one of us picked games because I guess we're not really gamers when it comes right down to it. We used to be when
there was kind of a weird bitterness when Sierra was sold. It was kind of a painful experience, and they screwed up our company and made us mad at the world, and screwed up our employees who were really good people and didn't deserve what happened.
Yeah.
And so I think we were just kind of like, heck with that industry. Yeah. We're going to go do other stuff for a while.
Yeah.
So,
who is your favorite fictional character?
Oh, for me, it would probably be Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, I like you more now.
Is that yours?
Yeah.
I think we're a lot alike.
It's kind of scary. Ken, how about you? Who's your favorite fictional character?
I don't know. Could I say Elon Musk?
Fictional.
Well, he's kind of fictional. I mean, it seems so strange as to be unreal.
Yeah, he seems unreal, doesn't he?
It felt like from another universe.
Yeah.
I know he did eBay and SpaceX.
No, but you had a fictional character.
Oh, yeah. No, I said before, probably Bruce Wayne for Batman because, because he was this kind of rich guy who was building all the cool toys in the basement, and then would go out and do awesome things.
Good things.
I guess.
As Batman.
See, I never would have taken you as a Batman.
No, I'm probably not. In fact, I said that probably my other choice would be
when we were younger. I mean, we would go see all of those.
Really?
I'm more like the professor in Gilligan's Island.
We've grown up. You know, when you get older, you know, I don't know, you lose some of that.
Yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah.
Where is the most interesting place you've ever been?
Egypt, for me. I've been there twice. I love archaeology and ancient history. That's one of my faves. And right now I'm kind of into Mesopotamia and Sumer. Don't ask me why. That's just me. But I'd say Egypt.
How about you, Ken?
Well, I don't. We lived in Mexico for almost 20 years in Cabo San Lucas, and the Mexico that we moved to was primitive. I mean, there was nothing around. You couldn't go to the store. You couldn't go to the movies. You couldn't do anything, and that was kind of cool. It was like I don't know. It was like an unexplored world at that time, and we left there once it became kind of a big city, but. I don't know. I remember really loving that. Those were good times.
Okay.
Who is the most interesting person you've ever met?
I remember last night we were talking about it, and I remembered somebody.
Okay, we'll say
but I can't remember his last. He's an actor and dancer. John
Travolta?
Yeah, John Travolta. John Travolta.
You met him?
Yeah, we did. I couldn't remember his last name.
We were going to do a game with him. And he was big on exercise at the time.
He had done a movie. It was either Saturday Night Fever, or what was the other one?
Oh, Staying Alive.
Staying Alive. It was one of the two, and where he was really doing dancing, and he had lost a lot of weight and gotten really buff, you know, and looking really good and everything. This was a long time ago. And you know, and so he was being interviewed on TV a lot about how he had lost weight, and he had put himself on this special diet and all of this. And we were trying to think of products we could sell through Sierra that maybe weren't necessarily games. It could be like for your personal computer.
Yeah, Jane Fonda's tapes were selling like crazy at that point.
During the Jane Fonda's tapes. And I was actually doing a lot of exercise with her tapes. So we were thinking these thoughts and that you could use your personal computer for other things besides playing games or doing your family, you know, accounting and, you know, and all that you could use it for other personal stuff around your house and like recipes or something, you know, like that. And so we thought maybe there's a way that we could do some kind of that they could maybe put together their diet and then use their personal computer to keep track of whatever, you know, they're eating or whatever. And so I was kind of working on that, the design of that, and we saw that John Travolta was talking a lot about that on you know, on Johnny Carson, say, or whatever, you know, he would talk about that. So we got a hold of his
we actually built agent. A prototype.
Well, we got a hold of his agent and told the agent what it was we were thinking, and he talked to John Travolta, who was very interested in it, and he said, "Yeah, I'd love to talk to you about it." And this is way before he got married, and this is way before all that. And so he's invited us to his place, and I guess he had like a ranch outside of Santa Barbara, I believe it was, and that we could fly in on his private plane. So the private plane picked us up. Where did it? Was it in Fresno or was it?
I don't remember.
Wherever it was.
To go over to his house.
Anyway, we flew to Santa Barbara, and then he had his chauffeur guy pick us up and take us, you know, to his ranch and his house, and I remember just being kind of like, wow, we're going to John Travolta's house. We flew on his private plane, and and his chauffeur picked us up at Santa Barbara, and here we're going. And so we came to his house, and the maid or the butler or whoever was let us in, and he came running up and hello, and he's dressed in like shorts and stuff, and he was really very nice. Come on in, come on in. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk about, this idea and of diet and exercise and how we could put that, into a product on our computers. And so we hung around and talked to him in his living room. And then he said, would you like a tour of the house? And so we looked at each other, and Ken kind of went, and I said, sure, I'd love to.
Right.
So he says, okay, Roberta, come on, follow me. And so he took me through the kitchen and the living room and around and through, and then he took me into the primary bedroom. And, and this is my bed and everything. And I'm going, oh, I'm in John Travolta's bedroom with John Travolta alone.
Oh,
and I
wow.
was kind of like, ooh, and so, and then, the bathroom and everything. And then we went back out, and he says, I had my cook fix lunch for us. Would you like to sit down and have lunch? And we said, well, okay, we're here, and so he was extremely nice and very, very nice, very generous. And he was excited. But as we went home, and we flew home, I said to Ken, I don't know. I'm not sure how this is going to work, and if this is even going to sell. And I don't know. The more I thought about it, we had to tell him we're sorry.
Yeah.
We're not going to do it. But at least we met him.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And yeah.
How about you, Ken? Who's the most interesting person you've ever met besides Roberta, of course? I mean,
Well, probably Bill Gates. Actually spent a fair amount of time with him.
Last night.
Oh, what did I say last night?
Last night was
the other guy, Steve Jobs.
The other guy, Apple.
Steve Jobs, right?
Oh, Jobs, right.
Steve Jobs.
Oh, yeah.
How could I forget that?
No, Jobs is cool.
That's who you said last night.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet Wozniak?
Cool. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Several times. He's great.
Yeah. No, that was when we had Sierra.
I didn't care for Bill Gates
because we were we were kind of the 800-pound gorilla in the game space, and games were starting to get cool and entertainment. So there was almost nobody that we could call that wouldn't take our call.
I think Steve Jobs is a very interesting person.
Yeah, Jobs was interesting. He was doing Pixar at the time.
Yeah.
And we were talking about...
he designed the iPhone and, I mean, the stuff that we're using now. So...
what is something you own that cannot be replaced?
I have an Apple one of the very first ones, and pretty precious item. Doesn't do a whole lot. We've got it on the wall of our my office at home.
But if we lose it, it would be hard to replace.
It would be irreplaceable.
Yeah.
But it's a place in history, and that Wozniak personally got it for me is kind of cool. Because what's funny, I mean, is that it's actually our second one, because I'd managed to get one from one of the original homebrew guys, and we happened to be out to dinner with Wozniak on a night when our house burned down, and it melted the original Apple I had. And Wozniak felt sorry for me and started calling his friends and got us a second one. So,
so it's special for that reason.
Yeah, so it's special for a few reasons.
Yeah.
Anyway, Berta, your turn.
Well, for me, it's pretty easy. My mom was an artist, and she wasn't like a known artist, but she had some very special oil paintings that she painted. And when she was a girl, she wanted to be a graphic artist, and she did a lot of drawings like graphic artist arts, and she had done it on kind of cheap paper back. I mean, we're talking like in the 30s and 40s. And she gave them all to me as like in scrolls, and to the point where if I opened them up, it would fall apart. And they were really good. My brother was born disabled, and she couldn't become a graphic artist like she wanted. She had to take care of him. But I've got the best of her art, and that, to me, that's irreplaceable.
What have you changed your mind about in the last year?
I think we had some. What was yours?
Oh, my answer was AI. Initially, I thought that it was going to destroy the world and lead to rampant unemployment. I do still kind of figure that, but now I've decided that it's just going to create a whole new generation or a new evolution, just like the birth of the computer creted an industry.
When you didn't think that much of it before.
Yeah, I didn't like it before.
Yeah.
I just thought, well, and I'm kind of worried about, people are going to work when AI takes all their jobs. So
maybe, but maybe not. But maybe not.
I've kind of flipped over to liking it now and thinking that it'll be a different world, but it'll be a bigger one.
Could be.
Yeah.
I guess I changed. What's the exact question?
What have you changed your mind about in the last year?
Yeah, after we sold Sierra, I was very depressed. Not depressed. I mean, I'm not really a person that's depressed, but I was very, I was down in the mouth. I would put it that way. I was not happy. We were kind of forced to have to sell it. I didn't want to, but we had a board by that time, and apparently there are rules out there. We were public that if you get an offer that is maybe too good to be true kind of thing, and it's gonna make your stockholders very happy, and you say no, they can. How do you describe that?
Well, I mean, it was public company. Which means it's in effect owned by the public, and I'm their employee,
basically,
as CEO.
Yeah.
And if something is in the best interests of the shareholders, you have a fiduciary responsibility to do the right thing. And if the stock's trading for $20 a share, somebody offers $45, you can't really just say no, or everybody could sue you for the missing 25 they could have had.
Yeah. So anyway, it was like a force out in a sense that we had to sell it, which was really terrible for everybody, including the people that bought it, because they had no idea what they were doing or anything. And it turned out they were fraudulent. There was a whole story behind all that. And I just said, I don't ever want to be in this business again. I'm done with it. And I was for 25 years. And it was Colossal Cave that brought me back. And now I'm actually feeling good about, the gaming industry again. And so that's a change for me.
It's kind of interesting how Colossal Cave is where you started, and it's also what brought you back. I think it's a nice bookend for sure.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way, but yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah. So this kind of ties into the unfortunate sale of Sierra. What is the worst job you ever had?
Mine is, it's actually the first real job I ever had, other than maybe babysitting, as a teenager, is my very first real job was I got a job working for the Los Angeles County Welfare Department. That's what they called themselves, Welfare Department in the Pomona, California. That was still Los Angeles County. And as a typist clerk, as a beginning typist clerk. And so my job was to go in every day and basically type out the social workers. I was kind of like the social workers typist clerk, a little like secretary or something. And so they would give me all these forms that I had to type all the stuff up on these forms, and then put all the folders together, and then I had to go and put the folders in the bins where they belonged. And I had this one guy, one of the social workers, was, I was 18, and one of the social workers, his name was Mr. Sugarman. I remember that. But he would he would come up to me, and this is the day of mini skirts, right? We're talking like 72. So, and I was aware of mini skirts, I will admit that. And he would come up to me and he would give me a armful of folders and say, "Go put those folders up there." And there was a ladder that they would move it around, like in a library, they'd move it around. And I would have to climb the ladder and put the folders up here, and he would stand below and go, "Look,
I wanted that."
But I knew he was doing it, but I couldn't say no. He was my boss. And that was in those days, before, in these days, you couldn't get, guys can't get away with that, but they did then. And I just didn't like the attitudes of the social workers, and, I hated that job.
How about you, Ken?
Well, Sierra would rank as probably like the greatest job and also the worst job in the world. There were a lot of tough days. Laying off people is not something that I would ever wish on anybody.
Yeah.
And to lay off 100 people in a day is, like out of a horror movie.
Which we had to do in, I think, 1983 or 84. We almost went under.
Kind of for the last decade of Sierra, my job was really riding on airplanes. I'd spend, most of my life riding on airplanes to go places to meet with people.
We had traveled, like Japan, traveled the world where gaming, these small game studios were making, really, really good games, and asking them to become part of our team, the Sierra team. And so they were doing that in Israel and Japan and England, and
we had something like 20 different development centers.
So he had to fly around and check the games they were doing. And
yeah, that was horrible toward the end. But and that's part of why we sold. I think I was starting to get.
He was more into it than me. I still loved my job.
I was jealous of all the people that worked for me because they got to build games and have fun, and all I got to do was
babysit them, right?
Yeah, babysit. Well,
are you doing it? You're doing a good job.
I always had to be the guy that said no.
Yeah.
But there was no.
It's not fun being at the top.
Yeah.
No, especially when it's far away from what, like, you can see what you want to be doing, but you can't be doing it.
Right.
It's difficult.
Yep.
Roberta, I think I know the answer to this question for you, but let's see how it goes. What is your greatest achievement?
Well, beyond having my 2 sons, you have to say that, and they're good boys. They've turned out very well, so I can't overlook that. Beyond that, I guess the way I would say it without sounding like, oh, he's so great, like that, is not any particular game, but just the fact that I kind of do feel like I was very try to say this to bring about the adventure games, to be at the one to really bring it about, and to be able to have laid out the map for how to do it, at least the way I did it. How do I describe that? That I was able to be the person to, it's not invent, because I didn't. That was Will Crowther and Don Woods, mostly Will Crowther. I feel he invented it. But to take that mantle and run with it and bring it to everybody else through my games, and to have had a big hand in how it developed. That's how I would put it. I think that would be it.
How about you, Ken?
We've done a lot of cool things. And at Sierra, I mean, the big one for me was I wanted to be number one in multiple categories. And there was a point in time when we were the world leader in games, the world leader in home productivity, and the world leader in education. Yeah, we were kind of the guys to beat in that space. And that was a cool moment. I remember running a competition for all the employees for the day we could outsell Electronic Arts and games. And yeah, we were going to issue 10 shares of Sierra stock to every employee on that day. And it was a battle. But it got everybody focused and everybody concentrating on that one thing. And when we did it, that was a cool.
We did it, and they got their
shares of stock.
Shares of stock.
Yeah, so to have done that, I mean, how can that not be, a great time?
He was instrumental in building Sierra. All I did was games within it, but he built the company really and ran it, which is really more than anything I did.
Yeah. I find that the most successful things out there are those that are made when there's a partnership. I mean, a good partnership where the two parties are actively involved and they have the same goals. And obviously you guys are clearly in love and have been for a very long time, and you don't see that often. So
it was a perfect partnership.
Yeah, we are.
She had the creativity and the sense of perfection and all that stuff, and I had the aggression and technical skill
and more business knowledge,
accounting
knowledge, and business knowledge.
Yeah, at one point in my life, I wanted to be an accountant, so I wound up being.
I'm not. I am not good that way. Yeah. I'm a proverbial artist.
What is your biggest regret?
Well, probably selling Sierra.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see it, kind of comes together.
Yeah, no, I'd be the same. I mean, we were on top of the world, and it's not even just selling it. Selling it would be fine, but selling it to crooks who destroyed the company.
Yeah, I think that's the worst.
That's the one we forget.
It was the worst part is how Sierra was treated afterwards, how it was forgotten, how the people that our employees were treated by them. And then to find out that the guy that made the offer to buy it was a crook, a literal crook, and had to go to jail. If you look that up, he went to jail for 10 years. Yeah. I mean,
it's violating.
You feel like your business was violated.
Yeah.
Not just your business. I mean, Sierra is a business, but what you two, I would imagine, poured into it is more than just.
It's almost like a rape in a sense, kind of, and you just feel a little dirty, and it wasn't right.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
What do you fear the most?
I fear the day that he's gone, and because our lives are so complex in many ways. Because we've been able to do so many things that you gather it and it's around us, and we have employees and we have things, and I'm not good at paying bills and in business and taking care of stuff, and he is, and I just feel like I just don't ever want him to go or leave. I don't know what I would do. That's what I fear the most. And I'm getting older, so.
Yeah. How about you, Ken?
Well, I guess I'm the same. I fear me going away. I don't. No, when she asked me last night, I said heights. And that's semi-true.
He does have a fear of heights.
Part of the reason I wanted out of Sierra was flying on airplanes. I definitely. Well, you notice that you caught me on a boat. I'm definitely a sea level guy. I like it.
I don't have any real fears. I don't get panicky. He can get panicky. I don't have any of that. I'm relatively fearless. adventuring and going off. Like we're on our own boat in Alaska going to the Northwest Passage. Nobody does that.
There's only like 400 or something I read that.
Like 300, I think, who've ever done it.
Yeah, who've ever done it. Yeah.
And then that was my idea because that's the way I am. I like to adventure. So I'm not really scared of things, but the biggest fear I have is that.
Question 13 might help you out with this one. What would you do in a zombie apocalypse?
Yeah, what I would do, it's pretty easy. I would quickly move to the most isolated rural spot I could find, and have all kinds of lots and lots of food and storage stuff so that I could live with Ken, of course. We could live there relatively safely, and I would probably also, I don't know anything about guns. I've never really shot any guns except when I was a kid. My dad had a .22, and he would line up like Coke cans and stuff and go, shoot those. Other than that, but I would do that. I would get way far away and try to be away from it. That's what I would do, and take him with me.
I think you'll all be all right on the boat. I hear that zombies don't swim.
Or on a boat,
so you should,
right? Or on a boat. See,
you should be
probably
fine.
would get on our boat, and that's what we would do. Well,
yeah, no, I'm kind of the same. I mean, seriously, we've talked about if ever anything really bad happened, it's nice to have a boat where, you can get on it and go 5,000 miles without getting more fuel. And
there is something to say about that.
Yeah, and we could easily live for months on it. In fact, we're going to be on this boat for most of the next 4 months.
Yeah, most of the summer we'll be on it.
So I think we would not be the type to stay and fight. We'd be the type to get on our boat and go to an island somewhere and try to live happily ever after.
My boat is on a lake, so I don't think I'd get very far.
You go out in the middle of the lake.
You get in the middle of the lake.
On shore.
That's true.
They can swim. Maybe if they could swim to you, but maybe they can't.
Oh, I think
they
can't swim.
So in honor of Tim not being here tonight, I'm going to ask one of his favorite questions. I can't do it justice the way he does, but this is the last question. What is your favorite sandwich?
When I was a kid, it was definitely peanut butter and jelly. I would say now, near our house, there's a place that makes a great BLT with avocado sandwich. They have really great bread and everything with it. So I would say that at that place, that's my favorite sandwich. BLT with avocado sandwich on whole grain bread.
Sounds so good. How about you, Ken?
I don't eat sandwiches.
You eat sandwiches?
When?
Well,
grilled cheese sandwich. There we go.
I think a
French dip.
French dip is a sandwich.
Okay.
Ooh, French dip is pretty good.
Yeah, that's a sandwich, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so.
That's a sandwich.
He qualifies.
Very good.
Okay.
Well, thank you. This has been a rare honor, and
it was really nice interview, and it's very nice meeting you.
Very
and
nice
I think you're right. You and I could be very good friends. We could go on. We could go adventuring together.
We'd probably get in a lot of trouble together. We'd be out there thinking about, well, what can we do with this? What can we do with that?
Yeah, that might not be such a great idea.
Yeah, no. Ken would want to keep us apart, definitely. Yeah. Well, listen, I really did enjoy meeting you two, and I don't know what's next for you.
I don't know. I would just say stay tuned, and you never can be sure what Ken and Roberta will do next.
That is true. Where can our listeners find you and get in touch with you?
kensblog.com. I'm Ken, and I have a blog.
But anything for me goes through him.
Yeah, so you go to kensblog.com, or our YouTube channel is the best one, is youtube.com/@MV North Star, like motor vessel North Star. And we're posting videos from the Northwest Passage And it should be pretty entertaining. So it's @MV North Star. And I think people get a kick out of it because it's real life adventure as opposed to fantasy adventure. And
Yeah, I don't do a lot of social media. I mean, meaning, going on TikTok or, or any of that, or Facebook. I don't do that. I never did. I kind of knew if I was to go on Facebook or something like that, I would be inundated and probably be doing that all the time. And the other reason is that I don't want, on social media, you can hear bad things and good things and, and people's opinions on this thing or that thing. And I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I know that if I really looked myself up there on the internet, I would see things that would, oh my God, where did they get that? Or they didn't, or they didn't like me, or maybe they love me, or, I just don't want to get involved with any of that. So I just stay very remote.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, folks, that wraps up another episode of Roundabout Creative Chaos. You can find us on the web at roundaboutcreativechaos.com. If you have feedback, guest requests, or insights into when the zombie apocalypse might finally kick off, let us know by sending an email to interviews@roundaboutcreativechaos.com. Now, I, like Roberta, also don't like social media, but we are also on Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and X at Roundabout Chaos. I don't post anything there, but you can find us there. And for those of you who don't like long domain names, you can also find us at roundaboutchaos.com. I have a domain buying habit. What can I say? Well, that's it, folks. We will see you next time.
If any zombies happen to get into your house, go for the brains. We insist, do not leave your house. Thank you very much for your cooperation.
I just want to start